You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to the program. I'm joined now by Chuck Todd, moderator and host of Meet the Press. And Chuck, thank you for being with us. I appreciate you making some time in your busy day for us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Roby.
We have got, I know your birthday was earlier this month, and I've got a potentially belated birthday gift for you. Do you have your Governor Sarah Sanders' Real Women in Politics koozie, or would you like the whole set of all the Republican
I don't have the
governors?
koozie yet, but I look forward to it. She's my former neighbor. When she lived in Arlington, her kid and my kid went to the same elementary school.
All right.
Believe it or not.
I will make that connection there. Let's begin with our former governor, Asa Hutchinson, gets in the presidential race this past week. He is clearly a long shot candidate, but he seems to be the one guy that does not mind taking on Trump in some ways. He's been pretty anti-Trump ever since the January 6th events.
Right.
Does that message have any chance in the GOP primary?
Well, it depends on your definition of what success looks like. You know, there are 1 in 4 Republican primary voters who do not want Donald Trump to be the nominee and who think MAGA, the movement, is bad for the GOP. And so there is a constituency. Now, the struggle, I think, for Governor Hutchinson is that this constituency is not a majority inside the party, right? And so while I think he's got an open lane for that 25%, which, by the way, would probably make him a strong, he'll end up doing probably better than some of these other better-known candidates who are all trying to swim in the same lane as Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. So on one hand, I think he's got a wide open field to that constituency on his own, unless the governor of New Hampshire, Chris Sununu, gets in. But as we learned with John Kasich, right, he was sort of on one hand the last man standing, but there wasn't a majority inside the party that bought into his vision of the party. And that's the question I have for Governor Hutchinson. I know how you win that 25%. You're going to have to nab half of the Trump supporters. How are you going to get them?
Yeah, it's a good question to ask. You know, it reminds me somewhat, too, of back in the early 90s when Bill Clinton got in and was a long shot candidate. And he was trying to move the Democratic Party more to the middle. It looks like Asa Hutchinson is trying to move that Republican Party more to its traditional roots of being in the middle. Do you see some similarities in that respect? Because obviously their politics don't jive. But
right. No, I think, but you're right about the larger. I just don't know if the Republican Party is ready to move the way the Democratic Party was. And it's an interesting question. The Democratic, when Bill Clinton ran in 91, when he announced his candidacy in 91, the Democrats hadn't won the White House since 76. Right? So they've lost 3 straight presidential elections. The Republican Party hasn't lost 3 straight. You know, now you can make an argument, hey, they've lost the popular votes 7 out of 8 times. Don't they really have a problem here? And I do think they have a long-term, even medium-term problem. I just don't know if the party is yet ready to accept. So, for instance, Governor Sununu, who I was telling you about, who I think would end up fighting with Asa Hutchinson for some of the same voters, you know, he's making an argument, hey, Donald Trump's a loser. The Republican Party lost in 18 with him at the head of the ticket, and 20 and 22. And I said to him, but the voters don't believe he lost. And until I think the constituents believe they lost, the Democrats in 91 were tired of losing, and they had accepted that they had lost by being too liberal. So there was a market, there was an openness to Bill Clinton and his ideas. I don't know if a large enough swath of Republicans believe they've lost, believe that the party has to change what it is because of its previous losses yet. I mean, here's the larger issue, right? And this is what's wrong with polarization. Neither party loses by enough to believe they have to change right now. Right. And I think that's the position we're in.
I want to take 2 questions on the latest poll that you guys came out with last week. One shows that nobody wants the Biden or Trump rematch. What is your takeaway from those results right there? Because those are the front runners in both parties, and it does, if you had to put money on it today, you might not make a big bet, but you'd say it's going to be Biden versus Trump again. Do people eventually just come around and fall into their party lanes, and then you have some independent voters that just aren't enthusiastic enough to vote, and we see where it goes? Or do you think there's another potential dynamic that could rattle that race?
So I don't I would not eliminate the idea of unintended consequences to a rematch. And that's what I believe is, now it's possible that this, normally you would say, boy, a vacuum like this is going to lead to a third party. But you don't see that, I don't know where that third party candidate would come from, right? There isn't a person like Ross Perot sitting out there that has some sort of credibility with left and right. He came in with a little bit of credibility with everybody, and I don't know who that entity is anymore. Is it a retired military leader? Please tell me the one that hasn't been sort of maybe beaten up or pilloried or doesn't have that credible sort of credibility with all sides on something. And I think I do think our primary process makes it inevitable that the two-party leaders end up the two-party nominees. And in many ways, they're codependent. We're going to discuss this. Here's a riddle for you. Donald Trump and Joe Biden need each other in 2023 in order to face each other in 2024. The premise of Biden's candidacy only makes sense if Donald Trump is the nominee. So who do you think he'd rather see as the nominee? And Donald Trump's candidacy only seems possible if he gets to face an elderly Joe Biden, right? So they're codependent right now.
All right, I got to wrap it up there. I'll save my other question for a later time, but I'll see if I can get you this koozie up there soon enough. Thank you, Chuck Todd.
Give me that koozie.
All right.
And get the governor to sign it first.
All right.
She will.
All right, thank you so much. All right, we're back with more after this.